name is Bob and welcome back to the homestead, y'all. Well, it's finally time to start planting our garden. I'm a little bit behind, about a week or so behind what I normally would be, but we've had other projects going on. I hadn't had a chance to get out here and get it planted. But I'm going to plant, in this row here, we're going to plant corn and okra, the whole length of the row. On the second row, we'll have double rows of corn. We'll leave the third row blank for now because next week we'll come in here and put compost on it and plant another 2 rows of corn. So that way when we go to harvest our corn, we don't have everything coming in all at one time. These are some pretty long rows. They're around 100 feet long. And if you do more than 2 rows, it's hard for Christy and I to get all that corn harvested and put up. We're up till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning doing it. So we've learned over the years to plant a few rows, wait a week or so, plant another couple rows, wait a week or so and plant another couple rows. So that way the corn isn't ready to be harvested all at once. It helps when it's harvest time. That way all of it's not coming in at the same time. Now this year I'm growing a little bit different corn. I did order a pack of this Stolz Evergreen from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds. I want to try it. Normally we don't use any kind of markers in our garden. We put it on the computer and we grow the same stuff year after year, so we know what it is. But this year we're growing a variety of new stuff, so I decided to go ahead and put markers in. All this is from an old mini blind, just a white mini blind, and I just took Sharpie and wrote the name of the vegetable on it, and that's what I'm going to do in the rest of the garden. And then I'll just stick this at the end of the row, and then when I start a different type of corn, which I'm going to plant Incredible, I'm going to go ahead and plant this Stolz Evergreen, and we're going to try it out this year and see how good it is. And then we're going to plant our Incredible in the rest of the row on both of these rows. And then on this far row over here, we're going to plant Serendipity. And that's another sweet corn that we like. We like Incredible and Serendipity. They're both great varieties of very sweet corn. In fact, we ate some last night that we'd harvested last year. We still have a little bit more corn left, so hopefully it'll last us till this corn starts coming in. But for today, I'm going to go ahead and plant the corn and the okra, get that done, and then we'll jump over here and we'll be planting some beans hopefully later this evening. But I still have more compost to spread on that. But hopefully by later this evening we'll have everything that we have with landscape fabric. Now, if you haven't been watching our channel long, we're no-till gardeners. We don't do any till. We're 100% organic. And we grow cover crops. And cover crops help make your soil healthy. And since we've made that transformation from tilling and fertilizing, even though we were always organic fertilizer or organic gardeners, at least for the last 25 years or so we've been organic gardeners, we always tilled our garden. But since we went to no-till now, this will be our 5th year doing no-till. It just made a world of difference in our gardening. You know, last year we grew tomato plants that were 12 foot tall. This year we're going to be trying to grow bigger tomato plants than that. It just made all the difference in the world. Once we went to no-till, we have healthy soil now. The plants need everything they need. They have everything they need to grow right in the soil. And I just can't say enough about it. I am so glad I went to no-till. But today, I need to go ahead and get something planted, so I'm going to get started. Now when I'm planting these, I just make a hole about a 1/2 inch deep with my finger and then drop a kernel of corn in each hole. And then I'm going to come back through here and hand water these. We haven't had any rain in a little over 2 weeks, and we're not forecasted any rain for the next 4 or 5 days. So I soaked my seeds, and I normally don't soak my seeds, but I did soak my okra seeds overnight, and I put my corn seeds in earlier today and let them soak up as much moisture. So hopefully they'll germinate quicker than just sitting here waiting on the rain. Alright, that has a row of our corn planted down one side. Now I'm going to go down the other side and plant some okra. Normally we just plant Clemson spineless because it does well and cans well. But this year we're going to try out a couple different varieties. This is Yuma Red okra. We're going to try it, and then we have Texas Hill Country, and then we're going to go ahead and plant just our regular Clemson spineless okra. But we're going to go down this left side of this same row that we just planted the corn, and we're going to plant the okra right straight in the compost now. has this row of corn and okra planted. So now we'll come over here. We planted Serendipity over here, so we're going to plant Incredible in this row here. So we'll have 2 rows of corn all the way down in this compost right here. And then next week we'll go ahead and put 2 more rows in that row. We'll put compost down, we'll put 2 more rows of corn in it. And then we're going to jump over here to the big piece of landscape fabric and we're going to plant some beans. Alright, it's time to plant some beans. We're growing a new variety of bush bean, well, several new varieties, but this one's called Dragon's Tongue. It's a bush bean from Baker Creek heirloom seeds, rareseeds.com. So we're going to try this year. It's a speckled bean and see how it does, but I've never grown this type before, so we'll see how well it does. Alright, this is another new bean that we're growing. It's called a purple TP bush bean. We've never grown these before either, but we wanted to grow different varieties of beans to try to find several varieties that we like. We grow the Roma 2s and the Kentucky Wonder bush beans, which I'll be planting a couple rows of those also. But we wanted to try a few different beans this year, especially some heirloom beans. Now these we won't keep the seeds from because we're going to have so many of them so close together. But I am going to plant some of each in a separate spot so that way we can pollinate them early in the morning and put some cheesecloth on them and try to save some seeds from these for next year just in case we do like them. So these we'll just pick and eat. We won't save any of these. We might, if we come out early in the morning, can find a bloom that's just opened. I may go ahead and pollinate it and put some cheesecloth on it and then mark it with a piece of yarn so that way I can save it later in the year. But that's not my main goal for these. Our main goal for these is to grow enough to go ahead and can several quarts of them. If we can get 10 or 15 quarts out of each one of these to where we can try them throughout the year next year and see if we like them, and then we'll make a decision on whether we're going to grow them next year or not. Let's talk about no-till gardening for a minute. I want to show you the residue that's left from where I took my weed eater and cut down all these cover crops. When I cut this down, I tilt my weed eater head and cut it as close to the ground as I can. And you can see all the residue left from the cover crops. It keeps weeds from growing. It's been about 5 days since I cut this down. There is a couple little pieces of clover that are growing that are sticking through. But once we put landscape fabric down on this and we plant right in this, then this is going to break down over the summer. So all of this residue will be under the landscape fabric. It'll be composting down. This fall, when we get done with our garden, we pull our landscape fabric up. This will be pure dirt. This will just be dirt, and then it's going to be great to plant our winter cover crops in. So after the garden's done, we'll come in here and pull all this landscape fabric up, take a seed spreader and spread cover crops on this. And this will give the cover crops food to grow all winter long. This residue will break down into organic matter and it'll give something for the seeds to grow on. Because like I said, this will be pure dirt whenever we get done with the garden. But I just wanted to show you this, how the residue breaks down, how thick it is. You can see, I mean, I can just grab handfuls of it from the winter cover crops. And there's still roots in the ground, so that way it's still feeding the microbes in the soil. It's still feeding your fungi in the soil, mycorrhizal fungi, until our garden gets to growing. Once our plants get to growing, then we have live roots in the ground again. So that's feeding your mycorrhizal fungi, that's feeding your bacteria, and in turn they're going to feed your garden plants. So by growing cover crops all winter long, there are so many advantages. Plus, all these plants that we cut down, the roots are going to be breaking down all summer long. That's going to give something to feed the microbes. And then that's going to give channels for more water absorption. By growing cover crops, you can increase the carbon in your soil by 4 to 5% every year. So we're putting organic matter 2 feet down into the ground, increasing our carbon in the soil. And if you increase your carbon by 1% on 1 acre of ground, that acre of ground can absorb 20,000 more gallons of water. So by growing cover crops in here, we're absorbing more water. Of course, we're off grid. We catch all our water in cisterns, and we have to water our garden from cisterns. So the more water that our garden can absorb, the better off we are. Our vegetables are going to grow better, and we're not going to have to water as much. But I just wanted to show you that real quick, show you the residue on it. And again, if you have any questions or comments on no-till gardening, please leave in the bottom of any of our videos, any of our gardening videos, because we talk about no-till and cover crops in just about every gardening video we have. You know, I can't say enough about no-till gardening and growing with cover crops. It's taken our gardening to a whole nother level. All our plants do so much better. We don't have to water as much. They put off more fruit, they grow bigger, they grow taller, they're stronger, they have less disease because they are healthier, because we have healthy soil. There's earthworms all in here. By the end of the summer, when we pull this landscape fabric up, there'll be tons of earthworms up under it, especially if we have a wet fall. There'll be just tons of earthworms under it.